Hey everyone, how's it going? So there's a lot of hype around the new Final Fantasy set. It's bringing in a lot of people outside of Magic the Gathering or people who haven't played Magic the Gathering for quite some time. And if you're trying to buy any of the product, it's really expensive and only getting more expensive day by day. The set hasn't even been released yet. Nobody has any product yet. But if you're trying to get a hold of any of this product, even the play boosters at like a decent price, it might be difficult to do so. So this is leaving a lot of people wondering, is the price ever going to come back down? Will they ever reprint this? How long will it take? And when, will I ever be able to get this at a normal price again? Or am I going to have to bite the bullet and pay this exceedingly high price? So we're going to take a look at some of the more recent older sets, the prices, the fluctuations on prices of those sets, how they were reprinted, what is Wizards of the Coast's unofficial reprint practices. I wouldn't say it's a policy per se. And that hopefully will help you maybe ease your mind a little if you are going to hold out and wait for a reprint, or help you with your decision on whether or not you want to buy now or to wait. All right, so let's take a look at first at the Final Fantasy play boxes. So today is Friday, May 16th, and TCG Player is having their 10% cashback sale. So this has led to a lot of spikes in purchases on a lot of products all throughout the TCG market. But they had a sale today for Final Fantasy. It was $144.99, $145, free shipping. They probably sold hundreds of those boxes, and as of right now, 3 p.m. Pacific time, it is sold out. So let's take a look. They've sold, according to this, 5,168 boxes just today because of that sale. And now the price is back up to $170 per box. And as you can see, people are still buying hundreds, dozens, tons of boxes, even at the 170 right after that sale of 145 ended. And it looks like it ended around here. So it looks like there was about 20-30 boxes ago. That price is pretty good, but now you're wondering, well, am I going to have to pay 170 per box for this or more? And so we're going to take a look at some of the older sets and see how those did in terms of the price fluctuations for the play boxes. So before we get into it, I just want to say, play booster boxes, at least while they are in standard, which is usually about 2 to 3 years. I think they just recently changed the rules on standard, and it might be 3 years now. Like each set's going to stay in standard for 3 years, with the exception of the foundation set, which I think is 5 years. So minimum 2 years, probably 3 now, is kind of like their window of reprinting it. So what that means is, there is no actual policy or official announcement on how they reprint these things, right? But so we can only look at what they've done in the past, and every set is different. So there are some sets that are not popular, and there's very low demand in them, and so probably their initial print run was basically enough that they didn't need to reprint them. Because remember, it takes time, it takes them money to do these reprints, right? It costs Wizards of the Coast time and money, and time is money. So they don't have an unlimited amount of printers to print the old sets again. They don't have, an unlimited amount of time to reprint them because they have to print out whatever's coming out next. They also have to utilize those resources to print sets that are coming out in the future, or other reprints of other sets. And I'm going to guess it probably takes them multiple months, 4 to 6 months, right, to get all that together and then distribute that to the distributors, and which then will have to distribute that out to the local game stores or wherever they're selling the products. And they have to take in consideration all of those factors, and each set's demand really determines how they reprint. But basically how it will work is, you have to think about what is Wizards of the Coast's mindset. While a set is in standard, they probably want to keep printing it to allow people to be able to have access to the cards, Obviously, they want to be printing it because they want to make more sales. They want to make more money, right? That's their main ultimate goal. But they, also allow people to have access to the cards. So if like, for example, a set that's in standard, like let's say bloomburrow, right? And bloomburrow came out, was it like April of last year? So it's been about a year. It's about a year old, and it's going to be in standard, I think 3 years, right? So it's going to be in standard. I think the new rule for standard is like everything rotates out like the beginning of the new year. So if bloomburrow came out 2024, it's probably going to be in standard through the end of 26. Okay, don't quote me on that, but it's around there. So that means through the end of 26. That means for the rest of this year and all of next year, assuming that's how the standard rotation works, it's up. There's a potential, and it is up for reprint. I think it's also possible they could reprint sets that's not in standard, but really then they'll be going back 3+ years. Really, it's probably not worth it anymore. By that time, they'll have so many new sets out. They're releasing like 6 sets a year or something ridiculous. So if it's 3 years old, there's like 20 sets plus their whatever other products that that they have. They're just not going to really be able to go back that far and reprint those old sets. So I think it would be safe to say 3 years, and they're probably not, very, very likely not going to reprint anymore. So they want to keep a set in print. Especially the most recent set. So Final Fantasy, right? This is coming out in a couple of weeks. It's coming on June 12th or something. And it'll be the latest, hottest set, at least for like 2 months before Edge of Eternities comes out. I think like sometime in August. And, they want people to be able to draft that set to play the whatever tournament, support the local game stores. They'll have the PTQs that are sealed and all that stuff. They want that to be ongoing, so they need enough product for that. Obviously, if they're going to do a reprint of Final Fantasy, they're not going to get it. There's no way they're going to reprint and distribute everything by the time before Edge of Eternities comes out. So, it will come at another point. But so let's take a look at bloomburrow. Now, bloomburrow reprint just recently hit, and I believe this set came out in around April of last year. Let me check my notes here. I actually wrote it down the other day. bloomburrow release date. Oh, August. Okay, bloomburrow release date was August of last year. Outlaws was April of last year. So August 2nd was bloomburrow release date. So that puts it at about, it's been about 9 months or so. 9 months ish since bloomburrow's been out. And if we're gonna, I'm zooming out. So right now bloomburrow is sitting at $148 a play booster box. Remember, this is the 36 pack play booster box before they decreased the number to now the 30 boxes. And this is the whole year chart. So if you look at the year chart, the release date was like August-ish. So it was around that. I mean, sorry, I know this is probably a little bit hard to see, but like the release date was like August 2nd. So at that point, if you can see it on my screen, that's around the release date. And usually what happens around a release date, especially for play boosters, there's going to be a big drop in the price, right? So we have this huge drop right here, and that's right after the release. It hit like a low at that time of 130, and then it sharply rose, and then it went down and up and down and down, and then it started rising. So what I think happened here in around mid to late October, about 2.5 months after the release of bloomburrow, the supply started, it was a pretty popular set, and so the supply started to dry up, and the demand is still relatively high, and so because this demand is high and supply is getting low, prices started to rise, and it just kept rising and rising and rising and rising. And then there was a big reprint probably around end of January of this year, and then it crashed even lower. It crashed even lower than, that was its all-time low on TCG Player. So it went down to a low of something around like 124-ish, and then again, it comes creeping back up. Now you have to remember, when they reprint, when they inevitably do reprint a set that should or needs to get reprinted, like bloomburrow, they're not going to reprint the same number, like the same quantity as they did their first initial print run, obviously, right? Because they're just it's not going to sell as much. People have moved on, time has gone by, people are buying other stuff. So they're going to print not as many. So that's probably why for bloomburrow, you see the price coming back pretty quickly. And so it hit that 124 mark. It really, what was that? 124 around end of January. Then like in 2 weeks or so, it goes right back up to 140, comes back down a little bit 2 weeks after that to about 130 132-ish, and it's just been rising ever since, and now it's closing in on 150. But I think there was recently just yet another reprint of bloomburrow, which I will expect this to tank the price back down to around 130-ish. And so I think Wizards of the Coast, like the 130 for one of these 36 pack play boxes, 130-ish mark is probably like the sweet spot, that equilibrium. If it keeps going up to like 160 and as long as it's within the print timeline, they'll probably reprint it again, probably. Okay, so let's take a look at the commander boxes, right? So the commander decks. Now they don't have collector edition commander decks. Final Fantasy does. The collector edition commander decks will never be reprinted, but the regular commander decks do get reprinted. So if you're trying to decide, should I buy the Final Fantasy commander decks? They're really expensive. Will they be reprinted? Yes, they will. So if you look at the bloomburrow one, and we're zooming out. So these don't get reprinted as much as the play booster boxes, but they do. And you can see this wild chart right here. You can see exactly where that reprint hit, and I believe there's probably just this one reprint within the 1 year that bloomburrow has been out. So if you take a look at this, price shoots up like crazy, gets a high about 340, reprint hits, boom, back down to 160, keeps going down to around like 150-ish, and it's still here down now because the demand isn't that high for it anymore, and so the restock comes in, and let's see how long it takes. So if it released on August 2nd, the reprint for bloomburrow took till about, and this coincides with the play booster box reprint. So beginning to end of January-ish. So that took them, it seems like it took them about 4 months for the reprint. Okay, so I think 4 to 6 months for a reprint. So let's just say the shorter end, 4 months. If Final Fantasy were to see a reprint, it comes out mid-June, so a reprint could hit around mid-October-ish, right before the holidays. That's when I do expect a reprint of Final Fantasy. And you can see here for the commander decks, price tanks even lower than the initial low that it was. And the same thing happened in bloomburrow play boosters. Price tanked even lower than their initial price. Now, that doesn't mean prices are going to tank for Final Fantasy even lower than they were. It just means, all I'm saying is that a reprint will happen. Bloomburrow took about 4 months, and it went all the way back down. Okay, so collector. We don't need to talk too much about this. No reprints. They do not reprint. Okay, and you can look at the Bloomburrow chart. You can look at any collector product chart. It's gonna look similar to this, just straight up, basically like minor dips, no real dips. Now this is a popular product, bloomburrow, so it's gonna shoot up harder and it's gonna only go up. If we look at the less popular ones, you're definitely not gonna see a chart as ridiculous as this. But bloomburrow in the last 1 year, collector booster boxes, 75%. It hit its low around like low 200s, 213, and now it's sitting at 430. Okay, and then the bundles. So they do not reprint bundles, even though they basically just contain play booster packs. It's likely because it's just way too, they have to remake these cardboard boxes. They have to remake the dice inside the bundles, the promos. It's just not worth it for them to redo bundles. I don't believe they've ever reprinted bundles, but they certainly don't reprint any bundles recently. And because of that, you can see the price chart. It goes up. It's up 83.91% in the last 1 year. There was like a dip, but it's just kind of straight shot up since then. And you can look at, almost any of the other products in the past, and it's gonna be similar. Now, the caveat is, okay, don't go look at like Murders of Karlov Manor, because it's hard to compare it to Bloomburrow, because Bloomburrow was such a popular set that did really well. But if you look at Murders, this is the bundle. Look at that, right? Murders did terribly. I don't remember when it released, but it did terribly for a really long time. And it wasn't until it hit its, not really its low, but around September of last year. And then it started going up since September. But bundles, they sell really, really slowly. Like average, it's like 0 a day. Okay, so that's the only thing. Like, yeah, they'll go up in value, but you'll be able to sell one maybe every 2 weeks or so, maybe if you're lucky. So it's not really a great, it's just something you're gonna sit on for a really long time, and it's gonna move very, very, very slowly. But murders, So the point is, bundles don't get reprinted. Okay, all right. So let's take a look at foundations. Foundations play boosters, pretty popular. I think this released in November. And you can look at the chart. We'll look at the 6-month chart because I think it's been only a little bit more than 6 months. So released in November. This was the release. It goes down as they usually do after release. Comes back up. It goes down here. Now, I'm not certain if this second dip was due to a reprint. I doubt, because... No, you know what? I think it's possible. I think it's possible it was due to a reprint, because about 4 months from November... Oh no, end of January. That's about 3 months. And I'm not sure what this was due to. Let me know if you know, what was there a reprint around end of January for foundations. But ever since that low, we shoot all the way up to about 150-ish from about 120. It's not that big of a spike. It looks big on this graph, but then it goes down pretty hard back down to the low mid 120s again. I believe this was probably a reprint right here in mid-April. And here we are today sitting at 132. Now foundations, it's in standard for 5 years. So that's a really long time. And that, like, the window for them to reprint that, it probably within that 5 years. So I really don't expect foundations to move much. I think it's just going to fluctuate between like the 120 to 150. So between 120 and 150, probably, in the middle there around 135 or so for a very long time. Okay, and then again, we'll just take a look. Another play booster box, Duskmorn. If you look at the 1 year chart, it keeps going down and then it rises, and then there seems to be a reprint or so around early February, and then it just crashes from there. Okay, moving on. Well, something even older, the Wilds of Eldraine set boosters. This was back then when they had set boosters, but you see the price goes up like crazy. Hits around almost $200 of March of this year. Okay, so this didn't have the January crash. And then you can see it hits that peak, and then around April, about a month ago, it starts to crash, and it continues to crash, and it's sitting at 134 right now. There was definitely a reprint of this set around that time. And then going back even further, Lord of the Rings set booster, right? So something you can compare to the Final Fantasy, because this is also a Universes Beyond, although not standard legal. But if you look at the 1 year chart, you will also see it goes up and down and up and down and up and down. And then recently it had its big crash around April again of this year, kind of similar to April of this year for Wilds of Eldraine. Yeah, so I think there was a reprint again around that time, and then the price comes back down. So what I'm trying to say is, there are factors, there can be a lot of factors that contribute to why the price of these sealed products go down. There can be some macroeconomic factors, global economic factors, things like that. But if we're focusing just on reprints and stuff, reprints probably have the largest impact on sealed product prices going down. And they can and do reprint sealed products, as long as it's not a collector product or a bundle. And every time they do reprint them, it's going to go down because they are going to flood the market with more supply. And not only that, but demand, obviously, months later is not going to be as high as the demand is today for this product. And the price will go down. So if you're waiting for a reprint of Final Fantasy, it will come. It's possible that Final Fantasy is a little bit of an anomaly because of the high demand and hype. The only way to know is we'll have to see. But I think around 145, 150 price for the play boxes is probably reasonable. And it's going to come back down to that price probably in about 4 months. Okay, we'll have to, I think it's going to hit around 4 months, maybe end of October, November timeframe, right before the holidays. We'll be back at around 150. Collector products, collector prices, they are not coming down. So hope that helped with your decision to wait or not. If you can wait the 4 months, if you want to save $20, my advice is if you really want to play this product now, pay the extra 20. But if you're gonna buy it to like hold it for a really long time, and so if you're gonna buy play booster boxes or commander decks to hold it for a long time, definitely wait. Like just wait 4 months, buy it at a lower price, and then hold it. Don't buy it now. But if you want to buy the commander decks to play, buy it. Just buy it now. It's like you're not gonna, it's just, it's probably not too much, and you're gonna have to wait 4 months. But if you're okay with waiting, definitely go for it. Prices will come back down on play boosters and on the commander decks.